It is time for our Browns only mock draft. So today we are using Pro Football Network's mock draft simulator. We are going to do 4 rounds. We're going to, of course, it'll be the Cleveland Browns. So here we go. I'm hitting let's draft. And we are going to let this play out to the Browns' first pick at number 74. I do want to real quickly, because I'm curious what they went back to. I think I saw that CJ Stroud might have gone number 1. But right now, first of all, before we start, we are in the war room. We already have a trade offer. So we know that our Browns fans, our subtext subscribers, were thinking trade. So here's the trade offer as the Browns go on the clock at 74. The Baltimore Ravens, a division opponent, are offering the Browns pick number 86 and a 4th-round pick next year for number 74. Are we thinking about this, Tim? Are we hanging up the phone? Are we just taking it? What do you think?
I'm looking at who's there right now. Noah Sewell, we talked about him, still there. Marvin Mims is still there. Oh, and Papo, the linebacker from Auburn, still there. Sidney Brown, the safety from Illinois, still there. I like those guys, so I would say no.
All right, Lance, are you good with saying no to this? We've been waiting forever to make this pick. Should we just make it?
Yeah, we should make it. I agree.
All right, so I am rejecting. Sorry, Baltimore. So, Tim, you mentioned a few of those names available to the Browns, just so everyone knows. Rashee Rice went number 70 to the Falcons. Antonio Johnson, 71 to the Saints. Steve Avila, 72 to the Titans. Jordan Battle off the board, the safety out of Alabama, goes 73 to the Houston Texans. So, Tim, who's a name that you like here that you're seeing on the board?
Marvin Mims. I mean, I just talked about the explosiveness, of Jonathan Mingo. I think Mims is as explosive you're going to get in this draft. Not a big guy, but with what the Browns have, especially on their perimeter with Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones, a smaller guy in Mims who's, not only a deep throw, but a guy who turn a short reception into a big gain. He's a guy I just absolutely love, and I've been a guy I thought the whole draft process, he's been ranked way too low for me. So that would be a guy I would be looking at really, really closely here for the spot.
All right, so I want some other names on the board. Tim had mentioned Noah Sewell is out there. Sidney Brown, the safety from Illinois, is still on the board. Ivan Pace, who's a guy we took, linebacker out of Cincinnati, he is still on the board. We took him last week. Brandon Joseph on the board here. Trey Palmer on the board. Lance, what do you think of some of these names? And could you get on board with Mims?
Well, I like Trey Palmer, but I can definitely get on board with Mims. He's an easy yards guy. He's a guy who is he's really good on film. Again, as I learn and do this stuff, I'm not sure sometimes what they're looking for. He can do a lot of different things. He's good at all 3 levels of the catch. He has really good releases. He's good at point of contact. He's good after catch. Obviously not the hugest guy in the world, but yeah, I'm absolutely. That's the first guy that kind of stuck in my head. I didn't even go anywhere else, so I agree with that. Mims is a great pick.
All right, let's do it. Let's go with Marvin Mims. We have consensus. So Marvin Mims will be our pick here for the Browns at number 74. So the draft rolls on. Noah Sewell went right before the Browns went on the clock at 98. He goes number 97 to Washington. Some other names, Tank Bigsby goes to Kansas City. Xavier Hutchinson went 94 to Philly. Then it was Bigsby 95 to Kansas City. Luke Whippler 96 to Arizona. And then Sewell 97 to Washington. We have a trade proposal once again. Pick 98 and pick 229 from the Browns to the Jets in exchange for pick 112 and Denver's 2024 4th-round pick. So that would be moving the Browns down 14 spots and also giving up a 7th-round pick in order to get a 4th-round pick next year. Non-starter, Tim, or are we taking it?
I'm thinking about this pretty hard because, it's a 14-spot drop, and I'm looking at the best available guys. I see A.T. Perry, receiver for Wake Forest. Browns just took a receiver already. They're not going to take one. Sam Laporta, tight end from Iowa, that I like. He's a fun guy. Israel Abanikanda, linebacker for Pitt. Deion Henley, the linebacker for Washington State. Those are good players, but to me, nothing that really sticks out. I love the idea of, taking that 7th-round pick and trying to flip it into a positive asset, and you get that 4th-round pick back. So I am really considering this, and part of me I would almost say 60% of me says, yes, take it.
Lance, do you like this? Because, obviously you move down 14 spots, but like Tim mentions, you take that 7th and you flip it into a 4th next year.
Yeah, I was talked into it. I was looking at it, kind of analyzing it, and Tim talked me. I agree. I agree with the value that's available. I agree.
All right, we're going to do it. Browns making a trade. They are done for the day here on Friday night of the draft, taking pick number 112. So we go home, we get a little bit of rest, and the Browns get back-to-back picks now, by the way, 111 and 112. We are on the clock at 111. Your recent picks, DJ Johnson, the edge out of Oregon, goes 108 to the Colts. Zach Evans, the running back out of Ole Miss, goes 109 to the Falcons. And A.T. Perry, the wide receiver from Wake Forest, goes number 110 to the Packers. I'm looking through here. It doesn't look, Tim, like we missed out on anybody that you were looking at in between these picks. So, some names here, Tim, if you see any as we scroll through, who do you like here at number 111? And of course, we get 2 picks here. So I guess are there 2 names that you like? And I can also search for guys.
I want to go with the Texas double here. I like Kendre Miller from TCU and DeMarvion Overshown from Texas. That would be kind of my idea for kind of a double up there. You know, I talked before about Kendre Miller. I like his potential as a workhorse back. Got good size, about 220 plus pounds. Great production last year for TCU. Overshown, I think he's an experienced backer, but you know, with some great speed. You know, he's kind of. So he is similar to some guys they already have right now at linebacker, but I love the explosives. There's Jair Brown for Penn State. I would say right now, I would say yes to Brown and Miller for me. Jair Brown, Kendre Miller for me back to back. I don't care the order. I mean, the players might care about the order, but I personally don't. It's just a question of, you know, which one would you rather say first than second? Maybe just go alphabetical for fun.
I also see Zach Harrison on here, who's a guy we've talked about as well. Lance, what do you think here?
Like Miller. I didn't do a lot on Miller. Watched him a lot this week. He's really, really good. Go up. Is that Zach Kuntz, the tight end from ODU?
Zach Kuntz is there, yes. So
I really like him. And I guess I would like to know what is the impact from this point on. But he's a guy, when you talk about risk reward, this guy had probably he arguably had the best tight end combine of all time. Now, for some reason, he didn't have huge numbers at ODU but I watched the film. He runs an incredible seam route. He gets to the second level very well. They run a lot of levels concepts, which the Browns run. You know, you're talking about a guy who's 6'7", 255. He ran a 4.55, 40-inch vertical leap. You know, his cone drill was 6.87. His 20. You know, he just had these incredible. He had 73 receptions in 220, but then last year didn't have very many. So I don't know what happened with the scheme. Was his quarterback not very good? He seems to be getting open. I got a couple of full games. So I like Miller. I think Miller's fantastic, and I would go Zach Kuntz, the tight end.
Tim, what do you think of Kuntz? Is he an option?
I mean, I'd say he's an option for me. I mean, the guy didn't just have a great combine. He had an all-world combine. I'm looking at the stats right now. He actually only played 5 games, missed 7. It was an ACL injury, so you know, maybe he's a guy who could even be had later in certain situations, I think. Obviously, every big board, when you go through it, is different. I like him as the potential to be a number 2 guy, you know, eventually if, you know, Jordan Aiken's kind of considered a stopgap guy right now at the number 2 tight end behind David Njoku. I mean, we wouldn't be the first, like, uber athletic tight end to come out of nowhere and really impress in the NFL. Obviously, George Kittle did the same thing. I really like Daniel Bellinger last year, who, you know, went to the Giants and had a pretty solid rookie season despite kind of nobody hearing about him. So Kuntz is a guy I'm really interested in, but I think for me, you can get a little more impact kind of having a 2A, 2B running back with Jerome Ford, and then, you know, potential starting free safety than you would kind of a third tight end in this spot.
Okay, so we're looking at Kendre Miller, correct? Is that are we good with him? All right, let's at least take him. All right. And then that leaves us at 112 with the Zach Kuntz discussion, Overshown, and then there was also the safety from Penn State, Jair Brown.
Well, Kuntz for me is more, you know, it's one of those boomer bust kind of deal. And, you know, in terms of value, what do you get from, you know, as Tim said, you get from 1 through 75, 1 through 80 are the guys who really, you know, heavy is like, you know, athletically, this guy, I guess the argument would be just what he could possibly give you. But in terms of what you're going to get right now, I agree. Having a safe, you know, so Kuntz is rolling the dice. There's no question about it. Played at a smaller school. his for me is just his upside, his ceiling is just incredible to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough call. Obviously, if you're passing on one of these guys, and in an ideal world, you hope one of them's there at 126. So, I mean, again, for me, I love Kuntz's potential. I mean, when you have that kind of athleticism, you hope you can harness it in an NFL offense and maybe, like I said, find a guy who can get close to George Kittle's stratosphere. You're not expecting that. You're hoping it. I keep going back to Jair Brown. I keep looking at his production. I know he doesn't fit the Andrew Berry guardrails. Looking at his age right now, 23 years old, turned 23 on January 25th. So he's going to be an older 23 going into, his first NFL training camp. But it's hard to look past the production. Last 2 seasons, 10 interceptions, 18 pass breakups. For a safety, those are great numbers. And obviously he plays in a conference, he's played CJ Stroud a couple of times. He's had to defend against Michigan twice. He's gotten some seasoning. Again, this would be, I think, because of the age alone, it'd be an out of character pick for Andrew Berry. But I think when you have a chance, to get a guy who can start pretty quickly, if not from day one, and really complements what you already have at Grant Delpit, that seems like a really good player fit combination to me.
All right. You know what? Let's have some fun. Let's make our YouTube commenters mad. Let's make our listeners mad. Let's bet on the upside and let's see who's there at 126. Let's take the tight end. We're going to go Zach Kuntz. This is a Lance Reisland pick. For anybody that doesn't like it, it's a Lance Reisland pick. Now, we were just offered a trade as we get to 126. We were offered 141 and 174 from the Raiders. We just made 2 4th-round picks. This is actually kind of intriguing. You add 2 more picks and you move down. It kind of makes maybe picking that tight end there a little more questionable, but that's okay. We've moved on. We're on to pick 126. Tim, do we like this?
I don't. I mean, again, I talked about you have only have so many roster spots to fill in this team. I wouldn't try to add more picks. I was just trying to kind of try to stay where you are. I mean, you get a early 3 and then 3 early 4s. I think that's a pretty good job. And I wouldn't try to add more than you already have, because then you're just you're creating way too much roster competition. At some point, you have to kind of consider, who can these guys? Do you want too many rookies trying to crack a 53-man roster?
Okay. I think I'm with you. I think we're going to reject this trade. It doesn't add anything to next year. Jair Brown went 121 to the Jaguars, by the way, if you're wondering. Overshown went to Washington at number 118. Zach Harrison went 115 to the Saints. So, if we were going to play that game hoping somebody fell to 126, it doesn't look like we got our wish. But Tim, as you look through our list here, give me a couple names as I scroll that you like.
Jaquelin Roy from LSU, excuse me. I mean, very good defensive tackle potential. A guy who can, another one of those guys who came out early, could take some time to develop, showed a lot of productivity in 2021, took a step back in 2022. Maybe a system change, I think, had something to do with that. But he's a guy I like if you're looking to add a developmental piece of defensive tackle, good size, could probably still add a little more, and I think there's plenty to work with there.
Lance, do you like that pick? Is there somebody else you saw that stands out?
No, that's the guy who popped out to me. He's 6'4", he's 315, he had 38 tackles last year, he had 19 QB hurries, which was kind of like, for me, getting hurried or getting pressure or getting in. He does a really good job of getting that A and B gap pressure at times. He has some of the best hands. His hands are so violent. When you watch him on film, I think he's a guy who's a little bit of a project. A guy who's one with just natural size and gifts, but that you can't teach what he can do, and the things he does poorly, I think you can teach. So yeah, I'm on board with Tim on that one. I think Roy's a great pick.
All right, so we have consensus here. We're going to make that pick. The draft rolls on. It is over. So Tim, let's do it this way this week. Why don't you kind of give us a quick recap of each pick and just a quick analysis of it?
74 Marvin Mims. I mentioned, explosive speed. You go back and watch Oklahoma 2021, when Caleb Williams came in a lot of times, especially in the Texas game, he was looking a lot for Marvin Mims down the field, made some great big plays, throughout his career. Guy you can win with the deep ball. We know Deshaun Watson's got a good arm to throw the ball down the field. Mims, I think, is a field stretcher and really brings a lot of, great tools to the table. 111 Kendre Miller, I mentioned, good size, 225 pounds, physical runner. I think could stand to use his size a little more, but, was a workhorse at TCU. I think he has some upside, I think, as a receiver. So I think that would be my question is, like, what kind of ability can he have as a pass catcher? But if you're looking, like I said, for a 2A, 2B for Jerome Ford, or even maybe the heir apparent to Nick Chubb one day, Kendre Miller's that guy. 112, we went for the upside. Zach Kuntz, the tight end from Old Dominion. I mean, uber athletic tight end. We talked about just the, production went down, missed some time with the injury last season, so I think that plays a part of it, as well as recovery, from the injury. But again, being number 3 tight end, he'll have time for that. He'll have time to learn the NFL speed. Tight ends, like defensive tackle, almost a position where you kind of have to learn a little bit. That takes time to develop. Maybe in year 2 when you could really kind of start to reap the benefits of that. Same thing, 126 Jaquelin Roy. Maybe you get him some rotational reps. You let him grow a little bit. You let him learn some technique. You let him learn from Dalvin Tomlinson about, it's just how you don't need to be the hero at defensive tackle, that you could just take up guys, take up blocks, hold up against the run. Don't try and create too many holes. Just kind of be that guy who does the dirty work and let the guys around you kind of shine. And that's a thing, I guess, a lot of defensive tackles coming in the NFL need to learn. So I look at this group, a couple guys could play right away, but, there's potential, I think, for down the road, which I think with this roster, with the veterans they've added, it's a pretty good job.
Lance, you like this draft or these 4 rounds?
I was looking at my notes here, and Tim's right about Marvin Mims. It's funny because when I first started watching him, I have him with all the top guys. I don't even have him on my second tier, and then I went to like Tank Dell and Tyler Scott and Jalen Reed and Parker Washington and even the kid, Uvosis kid from Princeton. And I have him in that top slot. Like, he's really, really good. I'm always big on defensive tackles in terms of guys who can anchor and guys who can take on double teams, and guys, as Tim said, guys who are maybe not going to help right away, but they're boring. And I mean boring in the best way. Boring in terms of doing your job and being really boring at it. Kuntz, I'll take the hit on that one if he's not what I think he'd be. I just like it. For me, his size and his ability to stretch the field vertically from inside as a tight end and still being pretty good at the point of attack. I think that, again, as Tim said, it with a roster who's pretty has some veterans, a guy can develop. And then Miller, obviously, again, I agree with the fact that we wish he ran a little heavier, but he's really good. I really enjoyed his film. So yeah, I like what we did here.